Welcome to Rhema Words of Faith, Daily Bread Devotionals. Today I want to take you on a journey of hope, reassurance, and renewal through one of the most comforting passages in the Bible. Lamentations 3:22-23. These verses say, "Because of the Lord's great love we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." In just two short sentences, this scripture offers a profound promise that can transform the way we view our struggles, challenges, and even our failures. Life is full of ups and downs, and let's face it, sometimes it feels like the downs outweigh the ups. We find ourselves burdened by past mistakes, overwhelmed by current circumstances, or anxious about the future. But this passage reminds us of something incredible. God's mercy doesn't run out. His love is steadfast, his compassion never fails, and every morning, he offers us a fresh start. Isn't that amazing? In this devotional, we're going to dive deep into what this verse means, why it's relevant to us today, and how we can live in the reality of God's unchanging faithfulness. By the end, my prayer is that you'll feel encouraged, uplifted, and ready to face each day with renewed strength and hope. To truly appreciate the depth of Lamentations 3:22-23, we need to understand the context in which it was written. This book was written by the prophet Jeremiah, often referred to as the weeping prophet, during one of the darkest times in Israel's history. Jerusalem had been destroyed. The temple, the center of worship, was in ruins, and the people were either killed, taken into exile, or left to face desolation. Imagine the sheer devastation. Everything they held dear was gone, and it seemed as if God had abandoned them. Jeremiah wrote Lamentations as a poetic expression of grief, lamenting the loss of the city, the suffering of the people, and the perceived silence of God. Yet, right in the middle of this book of sorrow, we find these verses about hope. Isn't it remarkable that in the depths of despair, Jeremiah could still declare the greatness of God's love and faithfulness? This tells us something crucial. Hope doesn't come from perfect circumstances. It comes from a perfect God. Even when everything around us seems to crumble, God's mercy and faithfulness remain. If Jeremiah could find hope in such a bleak situation, imagine how much more we can hold on to this promise in our own struggles. The first part of this passage emphasizes that it is, "Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed." The phrase "great love" carries the idea of a loyal, enduring, and unchanging love. A love that isn't dependent on our actions, but rooted in God's character. Think about that for a moment. God's love for you isn't based on how good or bad you've been. It's not influenced by your failures or successes. It's a steadfast love that remains constant, even when we falter. This kind of love is hard for us to comprehend because human love is often conditional. We tend to love people who love us back, who treat us well, or who meet our expectations. But God's love is different. It's a love that pursues us even when we turn away, forgives us even when we fail, and holds us close even when we feel unworthy. Because of this great love, Jeremiah says, we are not consumed. In other words, no matter how difficult life gets, God's love sustains us. His love is a shield that protects us from being completely overwhelmed by our circumstances. What would it look like for you to fully trust in God's steadfast love today? How might it change the way you face challenges, knowing that His love will never fail you? The next part of the verse reminds us that His compassions never fail. The word compassion here is incredibly rich in meaning. It's often used to describe the tender, nurturing care of a parent for their child. Imagine a mother holding her newborn baby, completely devoted to meeting their every need. That's the kind of compassion God has for us. Gentle, tender, and always present. What's more, Jeremiah says these compassions never fail. Think about that. Human compassion has limits. we grow tired, frustrated, or impatient. But God's compassion is endless. No matter how many times we fall short, no matter how many mistakes we make, His tender mercy is always available. This is such a powerful reminder, especially for those of us who struggle with guilt or shame. Sometimes we feel like we've messed up too many times for God to still care about us. But this verse reassures us that His compassion never runs out. It's not like a bank account that can be overdrawn or a resource that can be exhausted. God's mercy is infinite, and it's available to you right now. Take a moment to let that sink in. No matter where you are or what you've done, God's compassion is reaching out to you, offering you one of the most beautiful phrases in this passage is, "They are new every morning." God's mercies aren't just abundant. God's mercies aren't just abundant. They are fresh and renewed each day. Think about the sunrise. No matter what happened the day before, storms, darkness, chaos, the sun always rises, bringing light and warmth. God's mercy operates the same way. Every morning we wake up to a fresh supply of His grace and compassion. Yesterday's failures, regrets, and burdens don't have to define today, because God gives us the chance to start anew. This truth is both liberating and empowering. It reminds us that we don't have to carry the weight of our past into the future. God doesn't hold grudges or recycle old mercies. He provides exactly what we need for today. Imagine what your life could look like if you woke up each morning with the confidence that God's mercy is waiting for you. How might it change the way you approach challenges, relationships, or even your daily tasks? Jeremiah follows this with a declaration, "Great is your faithfulness." This statement is a cornerstone of our faith. God's faithfulness means He is reliable, trustworthy, and consistent. In a world where so much is uncertain, where people let us down and plans fall apart, God remains unchanging. His promises are not dependent on circumstances or our actions. They are rooted in His unchanging nature. This faithfulness is evident throughout Scripture. God was faithful to Abraham when He promised to make him the father of nations. He was faithful to Moses when he delivered the Israelites from Egypt. He was faithful to David when he established his kingdom. And He is faithful to us today. What does this mean for you? It means you can trust God to keep His word. If He promises to never leave you or forsake you, you can rest assured that He is with you. If He promises to provide for your needs, you can trust that He will. God's faithfulness is the foundation on which we can stand. Even when everything else feels shaky, life can feel overwhelming at times. Whether it's a financial struggle, a health crisis, or a broken relationship, the challenges we face often feel like mountains we can't climb. But Lamentations 3:22-23 reminds us that God gives us the strength to face these challenges one day at a time. His mercies are new every morning, which means we don't have to carry tomorrow's burdens today. Often we exhaust ourselves by worrying about the future or dwelling on the past. But God's design is for us to live in the present, relying on His daily provision. Like manna in the wilderness, His mercies are given fresh each day. What burden are you carrying today? Trust that God has already provided the mercy and strength you need for this moment. One way to fully embrace God's mercies is to cultivate gratitude. Sometimes we look for God in the big, dramatic moments and overlook the small, everyday blessings. But His faithfulness is often most evident in the little things. The beauty of a sunrise, the laughter of a child, or the peace of a quiet moment. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have. It opens our eyes to see God's goodness in every aspect of our lives. Start each day by thanking God for 3 things. This simple practice can transform your perspective and help you live with a deeper awareness of His faithfulness. Jeremiah wrote these verses during a time of great uncertainty. The destruction of Jerusalem had left the people without a sense of security or direction. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, Jeremiah proclaimed God's faithfulness. Similarly, we face seasons of uncertainty in our lives, times when we don't know what's next or how things will turn out. Trusting God in these moments requires faith, but it also brings peace. We may not know what the future holds, but we know the one who holds the future. Have you ever felt like you're not enough? Like your failures or shortcomings disqualify you from God's love? Lamentations 3:22-23 reminds us that His love and mercy aren't based on our performance. In fact, it's often in our weakness that His compassion shines the brightest. When we admit our need for Him, we open the door for His strength to work in us. You don't have to be perfect for God to love you. His mercy meets you where you are. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Can you recall times when God has been faithful to you? Maybe He provided for you when you didn't know how you'd make ends meet, or He gave you peace during a storm. Reflecting on these moments strengthens our faith and helps us trust Him for the future. Write down a few examples of God's faithfulness in your life as a reminder of His goodness. God's faithfulness isn't just for us, it's a testimony to share with others. When we tell others about how God has worked in our lives, we encourage their faith and remind them of His goodness. Who in your life could benefit from hearing about God's mercies? Take the opportunity to share your story and be a light to someone else. In a world that constantly demands productivity and success, it's easy to forget to rest. But God invites us to rest in His love. Lamentations 3:22-23 reminds us that His mercies are a gift, not something we have to earn. Take time today to pause, reflect, and let His faithfulness renew your soul. Gratitude is a powerful way to experience the fullness of God's mercies. When we take time to thank God for His faithfulness, it shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring our struggles. Rather, it means choosing to see God's goodness in the midst of them. Think about a time when you faced a difficult situation but found a small blessing that kept you going. Maybe it was a kind word from a friend, a moment of unexpected provision, or simply the peace of knowing God was with you. These small mercies are reminders of His faithfulness. Cultivating gratitude begins with intentionality. Start by keeping a gratitude journal where you write down 3 things you're thankful for each day. They don't have to be big. Sometimes the smallest blessings have the most profound impact. Over time, you'll begin to notice more of God's mercies in your daily life. Gratitude also involves expressing thanks to others. When someone blesses you, let them know how much it meant. This not only encourages them, but also reinforces the cycle of gratitude in your life. Finally, gratitude changes our perspective. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, we begin to see God's hand in everything. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, His mercies are present. Gratitude opens the door to joy and deepens our trust in God's faithfulness. God's mercies and faithfulness are not just for us to keep to ourselves. They are meant to be shared. When we share how God has worked in our lives, we encourage others and give them hope. Think about the power of a testimony. Hearing how someone overcame a challenge through God's grace can inspire faith in ways nothing else can. Sharing your story doesn't have to be complicated. Start by reflecting on how God has been faithful to you. Maybe He provided for you in a time of need, healed a broken relationship, or gave you peace during a storm. Once you've identified these moments, look for opportunities to share them with others. This could be in a conversation with a friend, a post on social media, or even a testimony shared at your church. When you share God's faithfulness, you remind others that He is still at work today. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear to reignite their faith. Sharing also deepens your own relationship with God. As you recall His mercies, you'll find your gratitude and trust growing. Don't underestimate the impact your story can have. Even the simplest testimony of God's provision or peace can inspire someone to take a step of faith. Let's be people who boldly declare, "Great is His faithfulness." In today's fast-paced world, rest often feels like a luxury. We are constantly moving, striving, and pushing forward. But Lamentations 3:22-23 reminds us that rest is not just important, it's essential. God's mercies are new every morning, and His love invites us to rest in His presence. Resting in God's love means trusting Him enough to stop striving. It's letting go of the need to control everything and allowing Him to take the lead. This doesn't mean we stop working or being responsible. It means we approach life from a place of peace instead of anxiety. One practical way to rest in God's love is through Sabbath. Take time each week to pause, reflect, and worship. Use this time to thank God for His mercies and realign your heart with His promises. Another way to rest is through prayer. Spend time in His presence, pouring out your worries and listening for His voice. Prayer is a reminder that you don't have to carry life's burdens alone. God is with you. Resting in God's love also involves trusting His timing. Sometimes we grow weary because we want answers now. But His mercies are new every morning, and His timing is perfect. Trust that He is working, even when you can't see it. When we rest in God's love, we are reminded that His faithfulness is unchanging. It's not about what we do, but about who He is. Take a moment today to pause, breathe, and let His love renew your soul. How can we fully embrace the truth of Lamentations 3:22-23 in our daily lives? Start by building habits that keep you connected to God's promises. Spend time each morning in His Word, reflecting on verses like this one. Let it shape your mindset as you start your day. Prayer is another powerful tool. Begin your prayers by thanking God for His new mercies. Acknowledge your need for His strength and ask for His guidance. Practicing gratitude, as mentioned earlier, is also essential. When you focus on His blessings, you'll become more aware of His faithfulness. Surround yourself with community. Share your struggles and victories with fellow believers who can encourage you in your faith journey. Finally, live in expectation. Each day, look for signs of God's mercy in your life. They might come in unexpected ways, but they are always present. When you intentionally seek God's hand, you'll find it. As we conclude, I want you to remember this. God's love never fails. His compassion never ends, and His faithfulness is great. No matter what you're facing today, His mercies are new every morning. Take a deep breath and let go of yesterday's burdens. Trust that He has already provided what you need for today. Walk forward in faith, knowing that His love surrounds you. If this devotional encouraged you, please like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments how God's mercies have impacted your life. Let's walk in His faithfulness together. See you next time, and God bless.